everyone, welcome to a tactics video. This time I'm going to use Mathhammer to review the new Bridgehead Strike Detachment. As most of you should know by now, for Christmas this year in 2024 December, GW is releasing all these new detachment rules, which is super cool. So now we've got a second one being Bridgehead Strike, which focuses on lead of infantry. And this is alongside the existing one from the index being Combined Regiment, i.e. Born Soldiers. So a new codex is due in probably February, so this is a limited time edition sort of view, but good to see how this compares. And let's use mathematics to compare the two different army rules. So very quickly, to sort of go over those quickly, the new Bridgehead Strike, which focuses on lead infantry, basically gives all Astra Militarum infantry reroll once to hit from ranged attacks. So that's everything from jungle fighters, Ogryns, gaunts, ghosts, etc. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to review Catachan jungle fighters and Ogryns just to sort of get a bit of a feel. The second part of this obviously is very, very powerful, which is for Militarum Tempestus. When they get out of a transport or arrive on the battlefield from reserves, they get +1 to wound. Yes, it's very, very powerful, but this is only when they come in from deep strike or jump out of a transport. Versus the other part of it is they always get hit rolls of 1, all Astra Militarum infantry. Now compare it to the Combined Regiment of Born Soldiers, is that all regiment units, when they target non-monsters and vehicles, get lethal hits. Yeah, and this obviously also works the entire game as well. So some crucial things from a time point of view. This is all game. This aspect is all game, but Fire Zone Purge for Militarum Tempestus is only when they come in from deep strike or disembark from a transport. So let's remember those things as we move into the actual review of the numbers. So, okay, so stand by for a big spreadsheet. I'll do my best to sort of talk you through it and keep it quite concise. But we've got 3 distinct scenarios: a toughness 4 infantry target, a toughness 6 infantry target, and a toughness 10 vehicle target. And the purpose of this is toughness 4 infantry target, and infantry target means you get lethal hits. A vehicle target means you don't get lethal hits, but also the toughness 4 and toughness 6 are purposely chosen because toughness 6 is a breakpoint because Lasguns wound on 6s. And for a vehicle, at toughness 10, both Plasma and Melta, which Tempestus Scions have, all both wound on 5s. We'll sort of speak about that in a second. Cool, then I basically got, for example, we've got 22 Lasgun shots coming out of the 10 jungle fighters. So that is the 3 blokes with Lasguns and the sergeant, hitting on 4s with front rank fire, second rank fire, and Combined Arms Regiment has lethal hits, and Bridgehead Strike has got reroll 1s to hit. Yeah, so as I go through this, I'm going to keep it quite concise. As you can see, the number of shots is 22 for all of them. They all hit on 4s, so that's 11 hits. Yeah, 50% chance. Reroll 1s to hit means an additional 2 hits, which means the total hit count is 11 versus 13 for Bridgehead, yeah. Which then means the lethal hits in Combined Arms is 2. That leaves 9 remaining hits to be wounding. You're wounding here on 5s, which is a 33% chance. So therefore the total mathematic view is 3.1 successful wounds in Combined Arms with 1.8 lethal hits equals 4.9. And for Bridgehead, given you've got additional hits, it's 4.3. So in this example here, the math is pretty much the same. Yeah, we're sort of splitting hairs. Now, when we go into a toughness 6 target, where you're wounding both examples on 6s, which is a 17% chance, I think it is, because the lethal hits actually helps here, yeah? It actually helps to have lethal hits into a higher toughness target, and Bridgehead with additional hit rolls isn't beneficial at all. Now into a vehicle, basically this scenario, you get no lethal hits, obviously, which actually means in this example here, that it's better to have more hits going into the wound roll. So this is a bit confusing to look at sort of Lasguns shooting into toughness 4 infantry, toughness 6 infantry, and also vehicles. But basically here, you could probably say there's little difference here. We're talking 0.3 over 22 Lasgun shots. If you extrapolate over, say, 5 turns, probably ends up in an additional wound. So overall, I think at this point, there's minimal sort of difference between the two. You could argue probably into light infantry or toughness 4 infantry, it's probably better to have lethals. And actually it is better into tougher targets. But broadly speaking, let's just agree there isn't much difference. Yeah, okay. Now into the Ogryns. So you've got your 3 Reaper shots. I'm assuming you're going to be doing it at rapid fire range, rapid fire 3, which means 18 shots. Now remember, there's no way to buff them in combined arms. Lord Solar can't order them. They get no lethal hits, which actually means the stats you see is the stats you see. Is 18 shots equal to 9 hits. And given your wounding on 3s into toughness 4, means you're going to have 6 successful wound rolls. Now, given in Bridgehead Strike, given you roll the 1s, you get additional hits, yeah? So you actually go from 9 hits to 11 hits, which means you've got more chance of wounding, which actually means in this scenario, it's beneficial to have more hits, obviously, yeah? So in this example, you can clearly see for the Ogryns, it is beneficial to have the Bridgehead Strike detachment roll. You get additional hits going into the wound roll versus combined arms where you get literally nothing, yeah? You get nothing now. So in this instance, it's better to be in Bridgehead. Yeah, so that's something I sort of think with the Bridgehead Strike detachment, it's a bit of a weird buff to Ogryns, rattling snipers. Anything which had nothing, which had nothing in combined arms from a lethal hits point of view, they've also lost the ability to be ordered by Lord Solar. So actually, Ogryns are a weird beneficiary also from Bridgehead Strike. Now also, another one which I'll clump in here is also in infantry indirect. So heavy weapon teams with the mortars, field ordnance batteries, and also Ursho carriage batteries and Medusa carriage batteries, which probably are going to be legend when the new codex comes out. But given they don't get lethal hits if they can't see the target, getting the reroll ones to hit is an actual buff for them, yeah? So that's interesting to sort of think about. Right, now into the Scions, and this is when it gets quite spicy and the math sort of bounces all over the place. To stand by for some numbers to sort of baffle your brains. But the key thing to call out, which I spoke before, is the combined arms detachment rule always works. Yeah, so you've always got lethal hits. Whenever these guys shoot, they can shoot something into non-monsters and vehicles, they get lethal hits. Versus Bridgehead Strike, it's only when they come in from deep strike or disembark from a transport. Now you can engineer that to happen, of course, across the full 5 turns. So you could obviously, with the enhancement now in Bridgehead Strike, you can basically turn 1 deep strike. So you could do it in turn 1. And likewise, you could disembark from transports in turn 4 and 5 after you've done your deep strike. And also there is an additional stratagem now where basically you can pick up a deep strike unit and put them in reinforcements and they can come back down. So you could engineer across the full 5 turns, you've got at least 1 unit getting the +1 to wound. But however, and this reflects on my sort of abilities, is I do think that requires a very different approach to 40k for Astra Militarum. Definitely the combined arms approach sort of suggests you play a very grindy game. You sort of play all 5 terms, but definitely Bridgehead Strike sort of requires you to do crippling damage to your opponent. So that's, if you can do that, fantastic. But I think from my skill set point of view, I'm probably more a combined arms approach type of bloke. Right, so now let's look at this. So the Scions are hitting on 3s with 4 rerolls, assuming you're shooting something on an objective, with front rank fire, second rank fire. So in the 10-man Scion squad, you've got 5 gentlemen or ladies with 3 shots each. That's 15 shots. So you can see here 15 shots. You're going to hit 10 times organically. You're going to re-roll everything that missed, which means you're going to get 13 successful hits. You're going to get 2 lethal hits, yeah, in combined arms. And then you're going to get 4 successful wound rolls, giving you a wounding on 5s. And this is where it's very interesting to look at the difference, yeah? So we're going to get 6 successful wound rolls from combined arms, but 6.7 in Bridgehead Strike Force, because crucially, because you're getting the +1 to wound, basically from a simple math point of view, the 13 successful hits will convert to 7 wound rolls, yeah? Because it's basically a 50% chance, versus obviously in combined arms approach, you get 2 lethal hits. They come out of the pile, yeah, because they're removed, they're automatically wounding, so you've got 11 remaining successful hits. Given they're wounding on 5s, means actually, in this instance, it's better to have the +1 to wound. Now, this was something I sort of thought of, actually made a mistake. I'd have it to re-record this video because you've got to take the lethal hits out. Interestingly, you've got less hits to be wounding. So therefore, given you've got more hits to be wounding on 4s, not 5s, it actually is beneficial for Bridgehead Strike, yeah? Now, as we then look at the other examples, the other scenarios, is very interestingly into the toughness 6 targets. Lethal hits here, weirdly, basically keeps the math the same, yeah, because given you're wounding on 6s with lethal hits, and given here you're wounding on 5s, you've got no lethal hits. Interestingly, the math here basically suggests the difference is minimal. However, into vehicles where you get no lethal hits in combined arms, but you're getting +1 to wound, where you're wounding on 5s, not 6s, here basically you're doubling the number of successful wound rolls given to your opponent. Yeah, so here we're starting to see a negligible difference with high toughness infantry, a significant difference, yeah, call it significant, 0.8, with toughness 4 targets, but crucially, into vehicles, you're doubling the number of successful hit rolls. Yeah, wound rolls. Now again, this is one turn of shooting. As I keep saying, you know, in these two scenarios here, your 10-man Scion squad's always going to get it. So assuming they deep strike in turn 2 and they're going to, let's pretend they live for 4 turns, you've got 4 turns with lethal hits versus bridgehead strike. They're going to probably do it, what, maybe twice, maybe, if you engineer that. So that's definitely to be considered, is we're looking at 1 turn of activation, yeah. But at this point, it is looking like bridgehead strike does more damage within 1 turn of shooting, yeah. Now, next we'll then look at when you use bridgehead strike combined with a stratagem called, it's got a super cool name, I think firing hot. Yeah, so firing hot are basically all your hotshot weaponry, including carbines, lasguns, las pistols, and marksmanship rifle, hotshot volley guns, get +1 strength. Yeah, and also AP. Okay, so here, again, we've had to cut the numbers certain ways, but here you can basically see the number of successful wound rolls for the combined arm is 5.9, no change versus the previous scenario, but this is where things really sort of heat up with the bridgehead strike. So given in bridgehead strike, your strength 3 lasguns go to strength 4, so you're wounding on 4s, you get +1 to wound, you're wounding on 3s, you can see the mathematical difference is pretty bloody significant here. It's an extra 3 successful wound rolls across the 15 lasgun shots, yeah? Now I'm just doing lasgun shots, I'm not doing las pistols and hotshot volley guns, just get the mathematics quite simple, but definitely you can see here, this is where the numbers spike, yeah? Now likewise into toughness 6 infantry, you can see as we had before, 4.1 successful wounds because you've got lethal hits, and lethal hits does actually help more into higher toughness targets than lower toughness, but also crucially, given here you go from strength 3 wounding on 6s to strength 4 wounding on 5s, +1 to wound, likewise actually it's very beneficial here. You get an additional 2.6 successful wound rolls. Now into the toughness 10 vehicle, it actually makes no difference versus the previous scenario, yeah, because given in this instance you're wounding on 6s with combined arms at strength 3. With bridgehead strike, if you go from toughness strength 3, you're wounding on 6s. If you go to strength 4, you're wounding on 6s, but then the +1 to wound means you're wounding on 5. So here, interestingly, it makes no difference. So this is a key thing to remember with bridgehead strike is your hotshot lasguns. It only works probably, I think it would be strength 4. I think it's basically at toughness 7 targets, I think it is when it's where you basically sort of cap out and wouldn't use it anymore. I think it actually could be toughness 6 actually. So basically the key point there is don't bother using that stratagem into vehicles, it's more into infantry. Obviously you get +1 AP with bridgehead strike, the hotshot stratagem, but yeah, it's to be sort of looked out for. So that is just with the hotshot weaponry. Now let's look at then plasma. Yeah, so given you got 7 plasma shots, 1 from the sergeant, 3 with front rank fire, second rank fire on the 2 plasma weaponry dudes. Let's look at what this does. So interestingly, you can see here instantly, given in both scenarios, you're wounding on 2s, yeah, because strength 8 into toughness 4 is wounding on 2s. It actually makes no difference into toughness 4. Now, I just want to check my math because I think I might have made a mistake here. Yeah, so here I've made a mistake. So basically, in this scenario, toughness 6, you're wounding on 3s, not 2s. So I need to change the math to 4 out of 6. You can basically see here that actually now I've corrected it. Combined arms will be inferior basically to bridgehead, because you can see here, obviously you've got 7 shots, 4.7, with the rerolls you get 6.2 successful hits on both. 1 lethal hit out of 6 shots, yeah, 6 successful hits, means you're going to get 4.5 successful wounds. But given bridgehead, where you're going to have the same number of hits, but you're going to be going from wounding on 3s at strength 8 to wounding on 2s because of +1 to wound, it is superior once again. And we're talking sort of minimal differences at this point, but it does all ladder up, yeah. Now, crucially into vehicles, this is where it does make a significant difference. You know, additional sort of 1 successful wound is given you're wounding on 5s. 5s. You're now wounding on 4s, 50% chance. You can then see it does make a difference, yeah. Now, the last one to look at is then a melter shot. So given you've got 2 melter guns, you can only get 2 shots because you can't give them additional shots for a front rank fire, second rank fire, and not obviously a rapid fire weapon. You can actually see that the difference is pretty minimal here, yeah. So 1.6, 1.5, given you're wounding on 2s into toughness 4. Now, given it's only 2 shots, again, it doesn't make much of a difference, but you can see it is superior because you're going to go from wounding on 3s in this scenario, toughness 6 at strength 9. At strength 9 versus toughness 6 +1 to wound is wounding on 2s, there is a minor mathematical difference. But given it's only 2 shots, it's not going to make a huge difference. And this again goes back to the point I make, is that given bridgehead strike is only once per game, in the sense they come down, they do it. Yes, you can put them back in the transport. Yes, they can be picked up and re-deep striked. Versus combined arms, where it goes on over many, many turns. Actually, the lower number of shots obviously makes the math less significant. Then into vehicles, again, the math is quite limited because there's only 2 shots. But you can see, because we don't get lethal hits in combined arms, basically this is where it's more significant here, because in combined arms, you're wounding on 5s, but in bridgehead, you're wounding on 4s. So that is where it does obviously make the difference. So you can see also that basically your melter shots, you're going to be getting double the number of successful wound rolls, and likewise on plasma, it's a little bit off as well. Actually, let me just check. So that's 50%. That's right. So yeah, there's a lot of numbers here. I get that. I've done my best to try and make it quite conceptual, but I think the broad synopsis here is that bridgehead strike is actually going to give you more successful wound rolls into higher toughness targets, as I'm just sort of looking at the math here. So yeah, you can see here for the hotshot lasguns, toughness 6, you get more from the hotshot volley, hotshot lasguns into toughness 10. And yeah, I think over the course of basically most scenarios, bridgehead strike on the Scions is getting you more successful wound rolls. In the toughness 4 targets, this actually makes a big difference. But yeah, I think the broad synopsis is that bridgehead strike for Scions gives you more successful hit rolls, wound rolls overall. For Ogryns and Rattlings and indirect infantry, it's obviously going to give you loads more, because in combined arms you get nothing, get no lethal hits. But then for like your battle line units, obviously there isn't much of a difference here. And actually, as I say that, I think for jungle fighters, which would be the same sort of universe as Kazkin, given Kazkin get lethal hits versus get reroll 1s, actually I think Kazkin will be the same, yeah, because it'd be almost the same scenario, because reroll 1s is more significant. It would make a difference into high toughness targets, because obviously you've got more hit rolls going into the wound roll. That's beneficial, but obviously against non-monsters and vehicles, you want to have lethal hits for your non-Scions, basically. So yeah, hopefully that is interesting and helpful. I've done my best to sort of mathematically engineer this to make it conceptually quite straightforward. I know it's a bit to digest, but I think the overall synopsis is that obviously Scions, bridgehead strike on their drop turn, you're going to increase your damage output. Then you give them +1 strength. It means against basically all infantry, you're just going to massacre infantry. Yeah, and that's obviously where the Scions come into their forte, is that into infantry targets of any nature, you're going to guarantee you're going to delete things. Given obviously if you also then add on the 5-man command squad, so you get sustained hits, you've got additional plasma, melter, hotshot, volley gun, and grenade launcher, you're going to guarantee the deletion of most infantry targets, yeah? Because sustained hits is a force multiplier. Obviously, you've got more wound rolls to basically roll for your... You've got more hit rolls into the more wound roll. It's going to be very, very spiky. And likewise into vehicle targets as well. So, yeah, so again, I think as I think about how I've tried this, I tried it on a game on Monday versus Blood Angels. I only had 3 Scion blobs with one with a command squad. Basically, I think as a player, I probably can't engineer it enough. I'm more of a sort of a static, play of several games. Obviously, Bridgehead Strike requires you to sort of deliver crippling damage on your drop turns. And that is where the Scion blobs will deliver crippling damage, because as I've illustrated, the additional wound roll +1 strength basically means against infantry, you're going to just massively trade up and kill loads of stuff. So yeah, hopefully interesting and helpful. A very, very different approach to looking at it. So if you've got any questions or comments, let me know. If you spot any errors in my mathematics, please also let me know as well. So if you want to support me, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, joining my Patreon platoon, or becoming a channel member. I'm a true Astra Militarum variety channel, covering everything from the lore of Astra Militarum, when I draw my ex-military experience, been a rifleman in the Australian Army for 8 years, to give a unique approach to Astra Militarum lore. Tactics videos like this one here, where I bring a casual analytical approach to competitive 40k. And finally, kit bashing, building and assembling videos. So massive thanks to all my supporters. To get your bayonet sharp, lasgun oiled. Faith for the Emperor strong. Patreon platoon, sound off.
Tank Commander Glenn. Tank Commander Mitchell. Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten. Lieutenant Burke Nielsen. Lieutenant Smith. Colour Sergeant DuPont. Sergeants Adal, Scott, the Colonel Merrill, Veteran Gibson, Hall, Lundeen, Guardsman Beard, Coquelin, Easing, Wood, Hills, Malik, Nitton, Nguyen, Tompkin, Conscript England, Evan Gunn, Goodwin, Honorary Members Bolgram King, Psyche Smith, Tempestus Scion Gaylard.